The world does not suffer from a lack of wealth advice. It suffers from an excess of fantasy. Walk into any bookstore or scroll through any online recommendation list, and you will be flooded with promises of speed, shortcuts, and certainty. Get rich faster. Retire early without sacrifice. Beat the market with confidence. Financial celebrities who quietly built durable wealth often admit that the most damaging lessons they learned did not come from bad decisions, but from believing stories that were never designed to survive reality. Realistic wealth-building books feel different the moment you open them. They do not excite first. They sober you. They do not promise escape from effort. They explain why effort applied consistently and unglamorously is unavoidable. These books are often less quoted, less viral, and less shared because they remove hope-based motivation and replace it with something far more uncomfortable responsibility. The first thing realistic wealth books dismantle is the myth of speed. Wealth, they argue, is not delayed because people lack intelligence. It is delayed because compounding requires time, and time cannot be negotiated. Financial celebrities who recommend these books often say the same thing in different words. The real cost of wealth is patience. Anything that claims to bypass that cost is selling entertainment, not instruction. Another defining trait of realistic wealth literature is its focus on behavior rather than brilliance. Instead of showcasing extraordinary outcomes, these books examine ordinary habits repeated over decades. Spending slightly less than you earn, avoiding catastrophic mistakes, staying invested through boredom and fear. This emphasis is deeply unfashionable. It offers no adrenaline, but it reflects how wealth is actually built for most people who keep it. These books are also brutally honest about trade-offs. They refuse to frame wealth as a pure win. More money brings more options, but also more responsibility, more complexity, and more exposure to risk. Financial celebrities who resonate with realistic books often mention that the greatest benefit of wealth was not luxury, but margin for error, margin for choice, margin for dignity. That margin, however, is earned slowly. Another recurring theme is humility toward markets and systems. Realistic wealth books do not glorify prediction. They emphasize uncertainty. They teach readers to design strategies that survive being wrong. Diversification, margin of safety, and redundancy appear repeatedly not because they are exciting, but because they work. Financial celebrities learned early that surviving volatility mattered more than exploiting it. Realistic books also challenge the identity people attach to money. They do not frame wealth as proof of intelligence or superiority. They frame it as a tool. This distinction matters. When wealth becomes identity, decision-making degrades. Ego enters. Risk tolerance distorts. Financial celebrities who endured learned to separate self-worth from net worth, often crediting sober books for that mental shift. Another uncomfortable truth these books confront is inequality of starting points. Not everyone begins at zero. Not everyone has the same access safety net or opportunity. Realistic wealth literature does not deny this. Instead, it focuses on controllables: savings rate, skill development, time horizon, behavior under stress. This realism does not excuse inaction, but it rejects delusion. These books also expose the danger of motivational excess. Constant inspiration without structure leads to burnout or reckless behavior. Realistic wealth books are quieter. They encourage systems over goals, process over obsession. Financial celebrities often say these books did not motivate them to act harder, but to act longer. Another defining feature is their treatment of risk. Risk is not portrayed as something to embrace blindly or avoid completely. It is something to manage deliberately. Realistic books teach readers to ask not how much they can gain, but how much they can afford to lose without changing behavior. This framing alone has saved countless investors from ruin. Importantly, realistic wealth books do not promise universal applicability. They emphasize personal context, age, income stability, family obligations, psychological tolerance. Financial celebrities appreciated this honesty. It acknowledged that copying someone else's path rarely works. Wealth strategies must fit the person executing them. Over time, readers of these books notice a shift in tone. The language becomes calmer. Urgency fades. The obsession with beating others dissolves. Wealth becomes less about acceleration and more about direction. Financial celebrities often describe this as the moment they stopped chasing money and started building systems that money could flow through. These books also demystify success stories. Instead of glorifying rare outcomes, they explain survivorship bias. For every spectacular success, there are thousands of invisible failures. Realistic wealth books force readers to confront this math. Financial celebrities respect this honesty because it protects against arrogance. Another powerful contribution of these books is redefining success itself. Wealth is not framed as an endpoint, but as an enabler. Freedom of time, reduced anxiety, ability to say no, the absence of desperation. These quiet benefits rarely make headlines, but they dominate lived experience. As readers progress, something subtle happens. Expectations reset. The desire for shortcuts weakens. Discipline feels less punitive and more protective. Wealth stops being a fantasy and becomes a long-term project. Financial celebrities often say that realistic books did not change their tactics overnight, but they permanently changed how they thought. And this is where the story begins to narrow. Because once wealth is understood, not as a breakthrough moment, but as a long accumulation of ordinary decisions made under imperfect conditions, the appeal of hype fades naturally. Realistic books do not inspire dreams of sudden transformation. They inspire commitment to process. They prepare readers not to win quickly, but to endure. And endurance, more than intelligence or luck, is what quietly separates those who build lasting wealth from those who chase it, like choosing solid ground over fireworks and realizing that realistic wealth, building books reveal their true value only when life and markets stop cooperating. In the second half of this journey, financial celebrities become strikingly candid about why realistic wealth books rarely become bestsellers. They are honest in a way that discomforts readers. They do not flatter ambition. They do not dramatize struggle. They do not promise transformation. Instead, they quietly explain why most people fail to build wealth, not because they lack opportunity, but because they underestimate how long consistency must be maintained. These books insist on a principle that hype-driven advice avoids at all costs. Wealth is fragile before it is durable. Early gains feel empowering, but they are also the most dangerous phase. Confidence rises faster than skill. Risk tolerance expands before experience does. Financial celebrities often admit that their biggest mistakes happened after initial success, not before it. Realistic books prepare readers for this phase by emphasizing preservation over acceleration. Another uncomfortable theme emerges repeatedly. Avoiding ruin matters more than achieving brilliance. Realistic wealth books spend far more time discussing downside than upside. Emergency funds, insurance, margin of safety, conservative assumptions. To impatient readers, this feels pessimistic. To survivors, it feels like wisdom. Financial celebrities learned that one bad decision can erase years of progress, while one good decision rarely transforms everything overnight. These books also demystify discipline. They do not portray it as heroic willpower, but as boring repetition. Automated saving, default investing, habitual restraint, removing temptation rather than resisting it. This reframing is critical. Discipline that relies on motivation eventually fails. Discipline that relies on structure quietly endures. Another reason realistic wealth books are overlooked is that they refuse to provide villains and saviors. There is no market to beat consistently, no system to exploit forever, no secret group holding hidden knowledge. Instead, there is math probability and human behavior. Financial celebrities respect this tone because it removes ego from the equation. You are not special. The market is not personal. The rules apply equally over time. Realistic books also confront lifestyle inflation head-on. They explain that rising income does not automatically create freedom. Unchecked spending absorbs gains invisibly. Financial celebrities often credit these books for teaching them to separate earning more from keeping more. The difference between the two is where most wealth journeys quietly fail. Another defining insight is the treatment of time. Realistic wealth books emphasize long horizons, not as inspiration, but as necessity. Compounding requires uninterrupted participation. Panic exits, constant strategy changes, and emotional reactions interrupt compounding more effectively than any market crash ever could. These books teach readers to design lives that allow them to stay invested psychologically, not just financially. They also strip away the illusion that wealth solves personal instability. Money amplifies habits. If someone is anxious, wealth magnifies anxiety. If someone is disciplined, wealth magnifies discipline. Financial celebrities often say that realistic books helped them confront internal weaknesses before money had the chance to expose them painfully. Over time, readers of these books experience a subtle shift. They stop looking for the next breakthrough idea and start refining execution. They stop comparing trajectories and start protecting their own. The desire to be impressive fades. The desire to be resilient grows. Wealth becomes quieter, less performative, more private. This is why realistic wealth books age well. They do not depend on trends. They do not expire with market cycles. Their advice remains relevant because it is grounded in human behavior rather than market prediction. Financial celebrities return to them not for new information, but for recalibration. And so the lesson resolves into a grounded conclusion. Realistic wealth-building books do not promise to change your life quickly. They promise to protect you from destroying it slowly. They replace urgency with endurance, excitement with stability, and fantasy with probability. For those willing to listen, they offer something far more valuable than hype, a framework that survives stress. If this reflection resonated with you, pause and ask yourself one honest question. Are you currently consuming financial content that makes you feel excited or content that makes you behave better over time? That answer reveals whether you are being entertained or educated. Share your thoughts. And if you want to continue exploring books and ideas that prioritize durability over drama, stay connected and subscribe. Because wealth is rarely built by those who chase the loudest promise, but by those who quietly commit to the longest process.